Hello, Year 8, and welcome to Drama. This lesson is the next in the series focusing on the poem The Identification, which we've been looking at. And this week you will need your work from last time, because the work you'll be doing this week is going to be based on that. And if you can't find that, email your teacher, either myself or Miss Bell, and we should be able to send you a copy. And you will also need some paper, or you will need a computer, because you will be typing a script or writing a script, a very short play, using the poem as a starting point and using the work that you did last week. To start off, a very short knowledge retrieval task. And this is a slightly different kind of knowledge retrieval, because this is based on remembering stuff that you did. So what you need to try and do is, without looking at your work from last week, please try and remember the answers to the following questions. Try and jot these ideas down. Firstly, what did you decide had caused the explosion? What did you decide had caused the explosion? Jot down if you can remember what that was. Secondly, where did you decide that the explosion had taken place? What is going to be the setting for your piece of drama? Where did the explosion take place? Third question, apart from Stephen, who else was there? Now, I'd asked you to come up with at least two other characters who were there when the explosion happened. So can you remember who they were apart from Stephen? And the fourth question, when did the explosion take place? So when have you decided to set your piece of drama? Is it set in the present or in the past? And what time of day? So hopefully you've jotted those ideas down, and take a look at the work you did last week and see how much you remembered. With your notes from last week, this is what you need to review. You need to make sure you've got this information, because you'll be using this to help you write your script. And this is a process that a lot of playwrights go through before they start writing their plays. They make sure that they've got the basics right. They make sure that they've got this information, so that when it comes to write the play, they don't get themselves into difficulty in terms of the plot. It's always very useful as a writer to plan out your ideas before you start writing. So in this case, a very important choice to make is where you're going to set your scene. Now, if you're writing a play, you need to make sure that you're setting your scene in a setting that you can recreate in a theatre. So you need to think, what kind of location would look good on a stage? What kind of location would be manageable to create in a theatre building? The second bit of information is quite important, in fact, absolutely vital, and this is when the explosion happened. Now, there's two ideas about when here. There's the time of day, and that's important because obviously light is different at different times of the day. If it's late at night, it's going to look very different to if it's bright sunshine. So that's an important bit of information you need to know if you are lighting the set. And the period of time, that's very important in terms of things like the costumes that your characters are going to wear, whether those costumes are going to be modern or old-fashioned, and also the way your characters are going to speak to each other, because people in the past used slightly different kinds of language. They used slightly different words to describe things, particularly slang. So if you've set your play in the 1950s or the 1900s, your characters are going to speak very differently to a play set in 2020. You need to know how the explosion happens. We know that there's an explosion because we know that Stephen is dead, and we know that he's dead as a result of an explosion. It tells us that in the poem. But we don't know what caused it, so we can use our imagination here. However, this is going to be the pivotal dramatic moment of your scene. You as the writer need to know what the cause is so you can build up to that, so you can foreshadow the explosion. So you need to think about this. You need to make sure that you know this information. And in the poem, one particular item or prop, as we'd call it, on the stage is the cigarettes. And you need to decide, how important are those cigarettes? Are they something which caused the explosion? Are they the reason why Stephen and his colleagues are in the place where the explosion happens? What is the importance of the cigarettes? It might be that they are completely unimportant, that they're what we might call a red herring. But you need to decide. You need to decide where Stephen is when the explosion takes place. Now, we know he's killed. You need to think, when you are writing your script, how are you going to get Stephen, or the actor playing Stephen, to the place where he needs to be in order to be caught in the explosion? Finally, the other characters. Who are they? Who are the other two, at least other two characters apart from Stephen? And you need a basic idea what their names are, how old they are, who they are. Are they, for example, other schoolboys? Are they friends? Are they relatives? You should have had all that information written down last week, and you should have sketches for 3 freeze frames that you created, which were the beginning of the story, the characters arriving in your setting, the middle of the story, what led up to the explosion, and the end of the story after the explosion happened. So effectively a little mini storyboard showing the storyline of your play. So spend a little bit of time either reviewing your notes from last time, or if you missed any of this, making sure that you've got these written down, because you'll need them for the next task. So if you need to, pause this video. This is the main task today, and this will take you the rest of the time that you have for drama. What you're going to do is you're going to write a tense scene showing the events leading up to the explosion and its outcome. So a scene that builds tension, and tension is our audience expectation. The audience watching your scene or reading your scene know something is going to happen. Maybe they don't know what it is, but they know that something is going to happen. So you need to build tension. How are you going to create tension? How are you going to create suspense? How are you going to make your script interesting and exciting? You also need to think of the work we've done on empathy. We did a lot on empathy this year. So how are you going to make your audience care about your characters? How are you going to make your characters realistic and well-rounded? And remember, we've done some work on how you write scripts, the way that you lay out a script, the format of a script. So how you show which character is speaking and what they're doing using stage directions. You need to make sure that you use the correct format for a script, the name of the character, a colon, a short gap, and then stage directions in brackets or using italics. Your script includes at least 3 characters. Includes Stephen. It shows why the characters have gone to the place where the explosion occurs. It shows what they do in the lead up to the explosion and result of the explosion. Effectively dramatizing the action leading up to the explosion and its aftermath. The script needs to have stage directions, and that's to set the scene, explaining what the stage looks like, and stage directions to explain what each character is doing. And your script needs to have at least 10 lines of dialogue for each character. Each character needs to speak at least 10 times throughout your scene. That means your scene is going to be at least 30 lines in total. Now that is quite challenging, so I'm going to give you some extra information to help you here. Again, this is all on the sheet. If you need to refer back to it, you can do. When you're writing a script, first thing to do is make sure that you have been absolutely clear about who is speaking. And the way you do that is if you're typing it, you can put the name in bold, or you can put the name in capital letters, or you can do both. There's no absolute law, but usually bold or capital letters. The second thing you do is after the character's name, you put a colon, the two little dots, and you do that to show that that's the end of the character's name. Some scripts don't do that, some scripts do. It's just quite a useful way of showing which character is speaking. Stage directions. Now, you need to clarify that stage directions are stage directions and are not supposed to be spoken. So there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can put them in brackets, and that's usually if you're handwriting them. But if you're typing them, it's a lot better to put them in italics. And the italics tell the actor, tell the director that these are stage directions. They're not supposed to be spoken. They're telling you a bit of information about how the actor is supposed to act or how the actor is supposed to speak the line. And in order to make it clear where the actual dialogue starts, you usually leave a little gap. If you're on a computer, you can press the tab key and create a little gap. And that is usually after the character's name, but if you've put some stage directions, you'll do it after the stage direction. But only if the stage direction comes straight after the character's name. As you'll see on the next slides, if you've got stage directions within a piece of dialogue, you put those in brackets and in italics. So that's how you format your script. Before you have a go at writing your own, have a look at my examples. And I've not written the whole script, but I have written effectively the beginning, the middle, and the end. So I just want to have a look at these and then have a go at writing your own. So this is my beginning, and you can see that I've put a lot of detail into the stage directions at the start. They're all in italics. The setting is an abandoned factory. There is rubbish and debris everywhere. The windows are broken. One side, almost out of sight, a stack of old gas canisters can be seen covered by an old cloth. That is me setting up what is going to cause the explosion. But I don't want to draw too much attention to it, but they do need to be on stage because I need the designer to know that the gas canisters are important. There was a worn-out settee and a table made out of a stack of bricks with a piece of wood on it, just about visible on empty cigarette packets. The place is quite dark. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to set up a mysterious scene, but leave some clues for the audience. It's clear that this is somewhere that people come. It's clear that they come here to do something like smoke. It's a bit mysterious because it's dark and it's all derelict. So that's why I've done that. There is a noise off stage, the sound of a door being pushed open. We can just about hear voices. The voices belong to three schoolboys, Stephen, John, and James. This is me setting up the main characters. And I've got them off stage to start off with, again, to build up the mystery, to create that sense of tension for the audience, not knowing who these boys are, not knowing what they're doing. And so the first lines take place off stage. So you can see I've got the first character to speak, James, off stage. Or almost. It's moving. John, off stage. Let me help. It's jammed on that corner. Stephen, give us a hand. Stephen, off stage. I'm not sure about this. If my dad found out. James, off stage. Stuff your dad. What I've tried to do here is I've tried to give James, John, and Stephen slightly different characters. James is more of a leader. He's more in charge. John, a little bit more friendly towards Stephen. Stephen, obviously, the most nervous of the three. Mention of the dad. Remember, the dad is the narrator of the poem. So that's bringing the play back in line with the poem. The last stage direction. Hear the noise of the door as it finally gives. We see torchlight dance across the stage. 3 schoolboys wearing uniforms enter. James, followed by John and Stephen. James seems confident. John seems unconcerned. Stephen is nervous. They each have torches. Torchlight on stage often looks quite cool. It can again create a sense of mystery, which is why I've done that. And I've set the play, although it's not absolutely clear, it's obviously set in a reasonably modern time, reasonably contemporary time, because of the way that the lads are talking. The line "stuff your dad," and the uniforms, school uniforms, give us some idea of the time, in that it is a school day, and we can assume that it is after the end of school. As you can see, quite a detailed opening, but mainly stage directions just to set the scene. The middle of the play, this is all dialogue, and this is James, Stephen, and John. James. Did you ring them then? Stephen. What? James. The fags, you idiot. John, didn't you remind him? John. Yeah, last night. Come on, Stephen. And here's some stage directions. You can see that I've put these in the middle of the dialogue. So they're in brackets, they're italics. He's wandering around looking at various items of rubbish. He stops at the gas canisters. Stephen. Here. He pulls out an open packet of cigarettes. I nicked them from Gran. She'll never notice. John. Hey, check these out. You can see I've mentioned Gran here. In the poem, Gran is mentioned. She has given him the whatever it is that he has. I think it's the penknife or the belt buckle. And I've ended this bit with John finding the gas canisters, and obviously they are going to be important. So skipping to the end, not explaining how the explosion happens, but at the end of my scene, there's been the explosion, and then this is the stage direction. The noise of the explosion fades. There's a lot of smoke. We can just about make out one of the torches moving. The other two are still. We can hear the more than we can see. Now, there's something quite exciting on stage when you can't quite see what's going on. It allows you to use your imagination a lot more. I'm imagining here that most of the stage lighting's gone out, that most of the action is taking place by torchlight. And the fact that one torch is moving suggests that something terrible has happened. John. James? Stephen? James. I'm here. I'm bleeding. John. Where's Stephen? James. Don't know. Don't care. Cops will be here in a minute. John. We can't leave him. James. Do what you like. What I've tried to do here is I've tried to give John and James very clearly different characters. James, not a nice person, clearly not concerned about Stephen, more concerned about himself. John, a little bit more concerned, a little bit more thoughtful. Again, the stage direction, and this is quite important. He, and that's James, runs off, taking his torch with him. John looks after him in despair, goes over to where Stephen's torches lie, looks down at Stephen's body, can't make it out, he's clearly dead. John. Oh, God. Oh no. He runs off, leaving Stephen's torch. And that would be the end of the scene. Hopefully what you can see there is how I've tried to develop the action from the boys entering the scene to the boys leaving the scene. Obviously, that's not the whole scene. I've only given you selections of highlights. Your scene will be probably about twice that long, because obviously you need to fill in. You need to decide what happens, what leads up to the explosion, how you're going to create the characters. You can see how I've laid out the scene using the names of the characters, using the stage directions, and hopefully you can see how I've built tension. What you need to do now is you need to have a go at writing your own version of that scene using your own characters, your own reason for the explosion. Once you've completed your work, well, make sure you've got a copy of it somewhere. And when you've finished it, as per usual, please make sure you send the work to the correct teacher. Have a look at your class and make sure that your work goes to either Miss Bell or to Mr. Earl. And I will speak to you next week.